Well, I'm sitting here with Wilmer. Wilmer, I don't know your last name. I'm
Wilmer,
reading it.
Wilmer Glick.
Wilmer Glick. And we're in your shop here at Performance Automation. And so you, how many people here are in the shop with you? How many people do you have working?
Right now, it's just one. Well, it's me
Okay.
and my dad, and then one, Dallas.
Okay.
And
Family business?
It is a family business, yes.
Okay.
The business is on the property, which makes it good and bad. Close, and the kids can run out and say hi to dad whenever they want to, which is good and bad. Has its pros and cons to it, definitely. We've a family business. Dad started the business the year I was born, so I think that would be 86.
Okay.
86. And started it next door, and he just started as a small one-man shop, and he grew it to 2 or 3 or 4. Then he kind of was getting older, kind of went through, kind of figuring out what he wanted to do. So he kind of got out of building it, was doing a lot more designing and having other manufacturers build it. And I was working at another company and getting to the point where I kind of, was not wanted to move on. That company started as I started in that position as kind of a research and development type of thing, and the company grew out of that position where it was more just manufacturing that.
Yeah.
And so then Dad was designing machines, having other people build them. I was like, well, I like building machines, so why don't I come work for you?
Yeah.
And work with you. And so then we restarted this company as Performance Automation. That was in 2016.
Okay.
So then I just kind of carried on Dad's legacy in a sense, the best that I could. Dad is very creative, very genius.
I think that's something a lot of people don't realize about the skilled trades is the creativity that comes and especially in what you guys are doing here, building machines. Like it's really that vague. It's like someone has a machine that they want built and they come to you and you figure it out and you build it. I mean, that takes some creativity, some thought process, some problem solving. I mean,
yeah. There's a lot of that. Yeah. So most times people will come to us they'll come to us with a product or something that they're already creating or about to create, and or say they want to drill holes or apply, plates, or there's all kinds of different things. And then so they'll come here and sit down with Dad or me and Dad and say, hey, how can we do this? How can this be done? And then Dad will, throw a couple different ideas around in CAD, and then when he comes up with something that us and the customer are happy with, then it moves to my desk where I then break it down further into actual manufacturable parts. And this is all done in CAD.
Okay.
And then it comes out on the shop floor and gets manufactured.
Wow. So what would you say is, you talked about you were working somewhere else. You came here to work with your dad. And you even talked about, I just saw a dog here walking past us. I love that. You even talked about how your kids came out here. I assume that's kind of how you grew up.
That is how I grew up. I actually grew up on the same property.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I grew up. Yeah. Just growing up, coming out. And we kind of had boundaries. I wasn't, in the shop around the dangerous equipment when it was running. But, as I grew older, I, run some of it myself. But, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So your dad started this 1986, you said. Mm-hmm. And you guys aren't really limited if it's people come to you with all sorts of ideas or like.
Yeah. We're limited obviously to our capacity. We were up to 4 employees out in the shop last fall. But then we kind of ran into a bind where we started building machines for companies that were much, much bigger than us. And so we had 2 big companies kind of that would trade work. They had big projects, and big projects, by big project, like over a year worth of project, and then it would be like 3-4 months of all consuming the shop. And that was great, but it was kind of not a great way to build a foundation because of the size of company we are. We can do those projects, and I really enjoy doing those projects, but during that time, I wasn't marketing. I wasn't doing anything else.
Right.
And so I kind of realized that it all kind of came crashing down when both those companies kind of capped out at their they were in the process of growing and bringing in new, conveyor. It was a conveyor system and some other equipment. And yeah, they kind of both. So over those 3 years, we would do one job for them and one job for the other company. And the two companies were just kind of bouncing back and forth. And then we'd have small projects in between.
Yeah.
And then, so about a year out, I started realizing that we are not sure how this is going to work when both those companies kind of peak out. And so then we ended up having to kind of restructure and lay a couple guys off, yeah.
That's always difficult. I've had to lay people off, and especially when they're good people.
Yeah.
It's really difficult in like how did you deal with that? How did you handle that?
I didn't handle it well.
Yeah.
I really did not handle it well because I kind of saw it coming and I wanted to prevent it, but I really had no idea how.
Yeah.
And it was, my dad's health was really struggling health-wise over that time. So that was also, he's still a little bit, he's getting better at this point. So it was a really okay, what does the future look like? How do we do this? I enjoy aspects of it. It felt like I had, I want a team around me. I realized that I have, weak points or I'm really, really good at certain things, but then there's other things that I'm just really not good at.
Yeah.
And so it felt like I had a team built around me that I could really, support and lean on. And I was like, this is all going to leave, so I didn't handle it well.
Yeah.
I stressed out with the wife and the family and everybody struggled with it. But
so how did you come through that?
Well,
and I apologize if you haven't yet, and I'm asking that question.
I'm still working at it. I mean, I have come through it on a lot of ways. I honestly, it got to the point where it was like, okay, I had to let go. I had to realize that there was just nothing I could do to kind of prevent this from happening. And, I got a service call, and went out and served it. And I honestly, one of my biggest struggles was I felt like once my guys left, they were going to be angry at me and realize I felt like I was going to fail them because I couldn't find work for them. And after it all kind of got to the point where I realized there was nothing much I could do anymore.
Yeah.
I got a phone call. I went out and serviced the guy's machine, and life went on. And I kind of realized it's like, well, I don't know exactly how those guys feel about me. I don't, that is what it is, but life goes on, and I still have customers to serve. I still have people that needed things done. And so we just kind of restructure and go from there.
I think that's the biggest thing that people don't realize is the importance of, it can be weary and burdensome. And I think one of the keys to success, at Blackline, one of our core values is grit, which I like to say is the courage to face what's in front of you. Mm-hmm. And, it's like there's an old I think it's Shel Silverstein poem that I remember from when I was a little kid. How certain things just stick with you? Mm-hmm. And it was a poem about Melinda May and how she, sat down to eat a whale. Mm. And it was like, how did she eat a whale? And it was like, well, she started at the tail. And she, just took one bite at a time. And the funny part is you would flip the page and then it shows Melinda May and she's like, 99 years old. The whale bones are just all there. She's eaten the entire whale, but it's taken her all that time. Right. But my point being, sometimes we just got to put one foot in front of the other. And the reality is there is a reward. It comes. It might not look like what we expected.
100%.
For me, sometimes I think my expectations really get in the way of me being able to take one step at a time. Because I can relate very much. Sounds like you're smarter than me. Because for me, my ego or my pride got in the way. And I wanted to provide for these guys when early in my business. And I had to lay them off. And I kept hoping for the best. And this is what happens to your bank account. Like the money just goes it keeps going like this, and the work's not coming in, and you don't have that, and so you eventually come to a point where it's like, wow, I don't have a choice. It sounds like you figured that out before I did, which was good for you. But the reality is, when things happen, when bad things happen, when difficult things happen, and they will, having the ability to face it and put one foot in front of the other. I think the key is coming to that 99-year mark and being able to look back and be like, well, I continued on and through it. And You will have accomplishments. You will have multiple times in my life. I've thought my life was over, and it actually wasn't. Oh. And the more that I developed that muscle, the more that I realized, this is and I think the secret weapon is just not giving up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, what is? Wow, we got really deep really fast. What is one of your most favorite jobs that you guys have ever done here?
Oh boy, there's multiple. I mean, there's multiple because of multiple different reasons, I guess. Some of them I like because they were small and simple, they were fun, and the customer still runs the machine. And some of them are more because they were large and they solved a really big problem. And so I can look at that customer and that company and see how they are now really blossoming and blooming, because of the collaboration we had with them and the way we were able to serve them. Yeah. So it's really hard. I mean, the biggest one that comes to mind is the project we did for Lancaster Log Cabins. Yeah. We've done a lot of their log lines. So if you see the log cabins, and each of corner is kind of like a Lincoln log in a sense. Yeah. So we basically built the line that does that, and they build their cabins kind of in.
So for those that are listening, when you say the line, you mean in their manufacturing facility.
In their manufacturing facility.
You built the equipment in that line that kind of produced that, kind of like way back to Henry Ford. They had a line that produced the Model T, similar type thing, except it's not an automobile. Right. Okay. Right. Wow. What was it about that made you enjoy that so much?
Well, it was a big project, so it was a lot of work for a long period of time in the shop, and then it was also we actually got to build the second version of the machine, so they're running both lines, but the second one's much better.
When a customer calls you back for more work like that's always the best. Yeah,
right, and just seeing when he came to us, they very much were in a growth stage, and so it was just. It was nice to see that, to take that from a very manual process to take it into still a lot of hands-on, still require a lot of work, but to automate some of that things so that they could grow despite and not needing as many, skilled workers.
Right. Well, and so your skill and your work made it that they were able to produce more stuff with less skilled work. I think that's something that we talk about a lot, the shortage of skilled workers in the industry. And I would think, your work here, it's like it's pretty skilled, it's pretty complicated.
Very.
That's because you're dealing with the complications now so that people don't have to deal with them later. I guess my question for you is like, how do you do that in your hiring process? So like when you bring people on, what is the time frame from, and like, do you hire people with like, my goodness, probably everybody you hire is like zero experience because what you do is so niche. So you hire from a zero experience, background. How long does it take you to get them to, qualified workmanship that you're putting out to a client?
Much longer than I really expected. I really realized. The last hire we had was a guy more for the office, and he was literally an answer to prayer if I want to have that. Yeah. And that was a kind of a fun and interesting process for me. I had sat down with kind of a coach and my manager at the time, and we kind of just laid out like the 5 key critical things that we would want in an employee. And my thing was like, well, if I get 2 or 3 of those, I would be good. I can compromise on some of the other ones. We had a couple non-compromises, obviously, but it took so much time and effort to kind of really nail down who that guy would be. Right. And it was like a month of like a once a week meeting, and just like in the end of it, I was almost weary. I was tired of this is almost ridiculous amount of time spent figuring out who this guy would be. But wouldn't you know, I think we literally hit all 5 of those.
Wow.
It was just a really incredible experience for me to kind of see what it looks like to plan and lay out and take the effort and the time to really define what it is that you want. Yeah. In a sense, to me, it was like, well, maybe that's what prayer is. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
Just laying out exactly what it is you want and then surrendering and seeing what it is that you can find. But yeah, he was a great hire, and it took some time to onboard him and to get him, into the system. But that is something I also really enjoy, bringing in. Either he was a college grad, he had a couple years of experience in the field, but to bring in, I really enjoy teaching and learning, teaching young kids and stuff like that.
So how do you make that work in business with that investment of taking the time? Because when you're teaching, you're not making money.
True.
Now, you talk about planning. I remember taking a project management class when I was younger at the electrical firm that I worked at, and I'll never forget these words. That, he was an old hat that was given the class, which was good because he had a lot of experience. And he said 1 hour of planning saves 10 hours of doing. And that was pretty intriguing to me. And it's really stuck with me. And you talk about planning in those different ways and the importance of it. The problem is, I think that we get stuck sometimes in the task that's in front of us. I just had a conversation with a guy the other day, and he said, well, when I get really stressed, I just do the work because I feel like I got to do the work. And the crazy thing is, then you have a bunch of people standing around watching you do the work, and you're the only one doing the work. You talk about that planning aspect. When we plan and we lay things out, it's almost more important, I think, to do that in the midst of the crisis than it is, when everything's going well, because I don't know when everything is going well. So, but
yeah, I definitely would identify with him on the just running and doing something somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow it feels better when you run out and just do a bunch of stuff.
Don't you feel like it's a trap, though? Because
yes, totally.
it feels better, but it's like it doesn't actually get you what you want.
No, it doesn't. It's totally a trap. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So you've been doing this for a few years. What are some of the things that you do to help avoid that trap? Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just keep slipping into it. I don't know.
I do keep slipping into it. I mean, we're very much in a period of kind of restructuring and kind of figuring out how and what it is that we do. So I mentioned I just purchased. Maybe I didn't mention it. I did purchase another business that has a little bit more of a product base.
Okay.
So kind of the thought is that would be a little bit more of a bread and butter type of thing.
Yeah.
So that we would have the baseline products and build those, and then we could still work in some of the custom machine, but we wouldn't be relying on that as heavily, because the biggest problem with relying on that heavily is if you need work and somebody walks in the door, you're much more inclined to kind of, we can do it for less.
Right.
Which always, 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 always bites you.
It's interesting that you say that because, and I know I've said this before, but that's probably one of the most painful lessons that I have learned was in the beginning of business. I'll never forget. I bid a job. I did a lot of bid work. Mm-hmm. And so, you collect all the things, you put them together. And I remember I got this quote for some material, a pretty decent amount. And it was like $20,000 less. And there were all these other quotes, and there was nobody even close. Like, it was like, clearly these guys looked at something differently than this guy did. And I'll never forget, I went with the low guy, and I learned very painfully and very expensively that usually means something. And ended up having to pay more than what the other guys bid. And now I've been in this situation where I have clients and people that have experienced that for our organization, which I think has helped me be a little bit more gracious when that happens. But the reality is, I think it's about the lowest qualified price, not the lowest price. But that's just me. So,
yeah, sometimes we're not always bidding up against other people, which would be very different in your industry. It's more what we're most times bidding up against is the customer's pocketbook.
Yeah,
I think that is also a big mental block I have that I need to realize I need to get past. Sometimes I'm bidding against my own pocketbook, not necessarily the customer's. Meaning,
yeah, what do you mean
I wouldn't feel comfortable paying this much for the machine, so the customer might not either, and therefore I'm not comfortable, throwing the number out that I actually need. Yeah, I don't know. That's very different. You probably wouldn't deal with that as much as the trades. You're competing with other quotes.
Well, honestly, you touch on something that I think we need to focus on, and that's we get driven a lot by fear.
Mm-hmm.
We get driven a lot by fear, and it's like, well, I need this work. And it's like, I remember one time a guy told me, he goes, so how much did you write the check for to get that job? And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, clearly you were low, and clearly you were lower than everybody else, and clearly it cost more than what you bid it for. And I was like, oh, that's annoying. And so then I started to look at things, and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm writing a check just to be able to, here, let me come do this work for you, and I'll pay you. And that was a pretty eye-opening experience for me, and that's some of what you're talking about.
Yep.
I think that's pretty common in the skilled trades to devalue yourself, because I think culture, and I mean, clearly I think this is a skilled trade. I think that our culture and our society devalues you already. And then when you deal with bigger corporate businesses, and you tell me, because you probably do more than I do, it's like they have a budget or whatever. And sometimes you get in a situation where you'll give a price and people just certain people feel like the way that they get a deal is getting you to just cut your number a little bit. I mean, does that happen to you guys, or that happens more with you doing that to yourself, not being confident?
Probably more me doing it to myself, although they will. It depends. I often don't really like to work with customer. If they're going to be looking for the bottom dollar, then I'm probably not the right customer. But it's probably, the biggest thing is probably just me doing it to myself. And not, seeing the value in there. Yeah.
Why, when you say that, why, when the customer is looking for the bottom dollar, why are you saying that you're probably not the right person for them?
Well, because what we do is very specialized and very, very niche.
Yeah.
We're going to have to work with them, and they're going to have to realize that what we do is special and niche, and we can't be nickel and dime for that. Like,
right.
it takes, and the biggest thing is finishing the machine is often more complicated than actually building the machine. The first 80-90%, that's fun and easy.
Yeah.
It's that last 10% of fixing the small glitches and fixing the small things that really make and break you as a customer, which I have to learn that the hard way. I actually had a good employee teach me like, look, you can't just run away from the last 10%. That's where you lose your customer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So your dad started the business. You guys have been working, and you've been around for quite a few years. I mean, that's more than 30 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So look at me doing math. It's impressive, isn't it? So what do you look for? And I know that we have a guy standing behind us working here, but he can't hear us. We're in our own bubble. So it's like the cone of silence if you ever watch Get Smart. But what do you look for in a person to be on your team?
I look for a lot of, I've heard of this, other people say in kind of machinist, in the more, I'm not sure exactly what we would call our niche in the manufacturing machinist type of things. I really enjoy machining and CNC machines and things like that. So I listen to different podcasts and other people who do that. One thing, a lot of the old machinists, if you look at where the trades are, I mean, you're looking at a lot of the tradesmen, especially old mechanics, machinists, they're 60, 70 years old, and that's kind of, they're retiring. But a lot of them started out being car nerds. They started out working on their own cars. Well, we can't work on our own cars now anymore.
That's a good point.
So it's hard to get kids introduced into this environment because they'd start working on their cars. They'd realize how to, take things apart, and then they'd want to upgrade their car or whatever. And, well, how's this made? How do you get this done? They figured out they had to go to the machine shop.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of, then they, find the tools they needed to do that. And so as they grew, they actually, love this. So nowadays, a big thing to look for is honestly the guns.
Really?
People like, if you find somebody
I
who
could be
says,
a machinist.
who says, hey, I built my own AR or something like that. If I hear I built my own AR, I go ding, 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 ding. Hey, what's up? We need to have a conversation. Because that's a kid who's looked around, who's messed with things he likes.
Yeah.
And he's found a way to either manufacture or somehow create a, whatever, put things together.
Yeah. Why do you think, so you talk about how people don't really work on their cars and whatnot, and that's been lost, and you talk about, I don't think it'll be controversial for those of you who are listening to the line, you talk about people making guns. Why do you think that is important to continue to go after that sort of thing? Do you know what I mean? It makes sense?
Yeah, I guess I know what you mean. I was digging into that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's more that it weeds out those who love to create with their hands, love to make things or put something together, and the satisfaction you can get from taking a raw piece of metal or whatever it is and doing work to that and then assembling it and seeing it function.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to find those people right now. I guess I see it in a gun hobby or years ago it was putting cars together. Now
right.
I'm not sure what it is other
right.
than firearms.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem with that at all. I was amazed to learn how easy it is to do that. I like that way more than Legos personally. I think that's something you talk about that, and in our organization, we like to say, well, we look for solutions, not problems. And I was just talking with a young man the other day, actually, editing something and looking at it. He's like, I don't know how to do that. And I think one of the things that we're missing in our culture today, technology is great, and the things that we have, like you talked about AutoCAD. I've worked in Revit, and these technologies are great for us to be able to build with, and they help us to do things that 30 years ago your dad couldn't have done. Mm-hmm. We're able to do projects that we weren't able to do with less people, and that's great. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the things that has happened is we've lost that part of our mind that problem solves. And it's like, I was talking with this young man the other day, and it's like, well, what would be the next thing to do? Instead of being like, yeah, I don't know how to do that, and just sit there and wait. And so what do you think it is in those guys who are making guns or were working on their cars? What is that missing piece that makes you be like, well, there's got to be a way? What do you think that is?
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that I've always had, and so you think everybody else has it. I don't know. Some things that just come so natural for you, you just can't understand. Other people wouldn't have that. Yeah. And I don't know. Some people, to me, because I always had it, it feels like one of those things where you either have it or you don't. Now, I don't know if that's completely true or not.
Boy, I hope not. I would hope not.
I see what you're saying. It can't be, though.
But that's where I mean, like, so talk to me about the process. Like, I mean, let's peel back the layers and look into your mind here. Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounded creepy. But like seriously, what happened? So you have a project, client comes to you, and this sounds pretty typical in your business, and they're like, we want this to happen. But we have no idea how to make that happen. And you start to look at what they want to happen. It's never been done before. It's never been created before. What is the process, or let's say that you're halfway through a project and you come up upon a problem and you're trying to figure out, like, what happens in your brain when you hit the problem?
Well, I mean, the first thing we do is find out, has anybody else ever done it before? Okay. And there's most of what we do is really just bringing processes together.
Yeah.
Like you might have it's just multiple different processes. So yes, we'll do some research, and my dad's a genius at research. As anybody else has done it.
So talk about that a little bit, because research is very different today than it was 30 years ago. So what are some of those processes? What type of research? How would you do that?
Right. Well, I mean, what my dad does is he's somehow a genius with Google. He can find things that I don't think exist. I've gotten better over the years just because he has the ability to look and dig in and find the one thing. So, okay, maybe you'll find a YouTube video or a blog or something where you see. Years ago, it was a salesman. Years ago, Dad said I learned everything by calling a salesman and acting dumb. Now, that was Dad's method years ago.
Well, I was going to say, in the 80s, Google wasn't really a thing.
Right.
Pretty sure the Apple computer in the 80s was in a wooden box.
Right.
So,
so yeah, a little bit what it looks like is find somebody else who might have done it. If nobody else has done it or anything close to it, then it's a matter of taking a bunch of small pieces and trying it, seeing if it works. But it's also just this can-do attitude, which I do believe can be taught or can be learned. What I love to do is take younger people or people that are just learning and watch them have that aha moment of, oh, I had no clue how to do this, and I just saw, or I was just shown how to take an end mill, for instance, cut this piece of metal, and now it clicks. It becomes, oh, there's solutions, there's methods, there's ways of doing this.
right.
So I love seeing that aha moment that come alive in people.
Well, the only way to get to the aha moment, like I'm listening to you talking, like I love to listen to people and kind of stand on the outside of what's going on and be like, okay, well, how do they do this? What is that? How does that work? Because I love building teams where people work together and figure things out, and so that's why I'm so fascinated by what you guys are doing. It sounds like the biggest thing when you come up against a problem that you're doing is, one, you have like a method with which you're like, okay, well, we're going to research this. We have this issue. And like you talk about your dad pre-Google, I find this fascinating. We tend to, and we started talking early on, when we're in a crisis, there's that natural tendency to be like, I have to do this myself. I have to do this myself. And the first thing that you said that your dad did was he would ask other people things. He would call a salesman, or he would pick someone else's brain. And I think that is one of the big things that in culture and society, I love technology. I think it's great. I actually think that AI is not a bad thing. There are ways to use it that can be really good. But the reality is, it's that importance of getting outside of ourselves and doing that research and having other points of contact, because you only have this point of view. When your dad asked that salesman, he got another point of view, which actually gives you a fuller picture of what's going on there. It's kind of like you're, all standing around in a circle in the dark at night, and somebody turns on their flashlight and you can see what's in that beam. Somebody else over here, they turn on their flashlight and you can see then more of what's going on. I think that's really interesting to look at when you come up against a problem. And then also the other thing that I think clearly that you have to have, and we could do more of, I'm trying to think of a word other than perseverance, but it's like just not giving up. Things can get a little hard, and that not being like, oh, well, I guess we can't do that.
Right. I would tell myself, I would call myself an eternal optimist. Now my wife helps me with that, but
you almost made me spit water on you. My wife helps me with that. I love that. That's great.
She's a bit more grounded in reality sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
Than I can. I mean, I can sell a lot of dreams sometimes, because I just believe it's going to work out. I just believe it's going to be possible. And so, I don't know. I find that a lot in a lot of, entrepreneurs or people who you almost need some of that at least.
Oh, absolutely. So many things wouldn't exist And so many things throughout history were stated, yeah, well, that'll never happen.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
it's like, except people, I mean, I just remember, I think it was this past year, Elon Musk had a rocket ship land by itself,
Right.
you know, and get caught. And like we that just can never happen.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, and all of that stuff happens with a collaboration of people. Even what you're talking about with your wife, I think optimism is really important. You know, it's like, what did I hear? You know, when you're focusing on something, well, then clearly that's what's going to happen, whether it's negative or whether it's positive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're going to self-fulfill those prophecies in that way. But yet, when we come together on things, my business partner, I'm an internal optimist, and my business partner, he would call himself a realist.
All right.
And he has helped me multiple times to come back into reality. And it's like there's a balance there for us to be successful. I remember Walt Disney, I read something or heard something about Disney, and he commented, you know, he was the creative, and he said he would have failed so much if it wouldn't have been for his brother who worked with them, because he kept him grounded in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but you look at some of the things that Disney has done, it's pretty fascinating. So you guys are here working. You're building things. You're solving problems. You know, and you're building machines, which I think is really cool. You talked about marketing and branding. You know, if you're too busy working, I know a company that can actually help you with that.
With the marketing, branding.
Yeah, there's
a
a company they're really good at it. They love doing that.
Okay.
All that being said, you guys are literally in the thick of it. You're doing the work. Is your dad still in the business at all?
Yes, he's still very key in the performance automation aspect end of the business. He's still the baseline first creator, or the first.
Really?
He's the ideas guy, and we collaborate very well. But there again, I'm kind of an implementer, more of an implementer. I can build things, I can make things, but don't ask me to come up with the new things out of the box. And that's Dad. He comes up with the new thing. Once he figured out how it can be done, it's done in his mind.
Yeah.
Which it's literally just simply a couple drawings on a CAD software, SolidWorks is what we use. But
Okay.
you know, it doesn't have any legs to stand on. It's just floating in midair, but it's got the core functions of what it is. Like, it's got the pneumatic actuator, and it's got the drill. It's got whatever it needs to do is done. And then he figured out what it's done, and now the vision's created, so we're done, you know? That's where I come in.
Right.
I will then take it, and he'll have, you know, in a CAD model, you have to manufacture, maybe you have to machine the one part, the other part, sheet metal or whatever. It'll just be all one big part in the CAD model in Dad's world. But then I have to break it apart. This is a sheet metal part. This is a manufacturing part. Now I have to put holes in. It's going to get bolted together and all that. Then I'll put legs on it, and then order the parts from a laser cutter or the other manufacturing processes that get done, and put it all together.
Wow. I don't think people realize that companies like yours exist.
Probably not.
Yeah.
We technically are the research and development arm of most big companies. Like a big company would have us in their own facility as the research and development.
Yeah. Yeah. But you are that for whoever wants to come and ask you.
Yeah, we are that for Lancaster County.
Wow. That's
we are that for Lancaster County small businessmen who can't afford to have an in-house research and development facility.
Well, I think that even comes back to, you know, just bringing different people into the process to figure things out. And that collaboration is super important. I think collaboration and, you know, a diligence to continue to push forward is super important towards success. And it sounds like you guys are helping multiple organizations do that. And obviously, you know, you talked about having to lay people off earlier in the podcast as we were talking. You clearly are learning from things and you know, restructuring, building, moving forward. what is it about business? Because you're an owner operator, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is it that makes you want to do this?
Mm.
Because I think it's probably pretty hard based on what you've been sharing with me.
It's been tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I sometimes I ask myself, what is it that I want to do? It would be easier to just go work for someone else.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about working together. I mean, a big drive has been being able to stay on the property because we have this nice shop here. Although that has lost some of its glamour in the last couple of years just because of how hard it has been to stay here. What is it? I don't know. It's my desire is to have a team of people around me that pick up from my weaknesses.
Yeah.
And that we can create things together. I love creating things with other people. So yeah, I guess that's what drives me. That's what makes me want to keep going.
Yeah.
And also serve the customer, like to see other people's, have a bottleneck in their manufacturing process or whatever, and to be able to come in and fill that and work with them
to solve that problem.
To solve that problem. That's important to me.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the most fulfilling things for me too, is when a client or someone is like, this is the issue that we have, and recognizing, when we're able to help them solve that issue and get them where they want to be, that's pretty exciting actually, and fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And we do it less in a tangible way that you do it. I mean, I literally see machines here behind the camera that are being made, and you guys are working on this stuff and putting these things together. That's pretty awesome. I mean, all right, so I have another question for you, and this is, so you're on camera. We're going to publish this, no matter what. Has he signed the waiver? So we'll get you to, wow, maybe I got to be a little bit more careful. No, I can forge your signature.
You're good.
So working with your dad, family business can be different. So tell me a little bit about that, because there are probably people listening that are either in a family business, and like, because here's the deal: when you work and you're part of a company and you're not family, if you don't like something, you can leave.
Mm-hmm.
Family, you might be able to leave the business, but you can't leave you're always part of that DNA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that you and your dad don't always have perfect days. Tell me a little bit about what it is to be in a family business.
Well, I mean, for me, I couldn't be in business with my dad if I hadn't let go of a lot of expectations I had as a kid. I mean, my dad growing up, now being a dad, I understand a little bit more his perspective.
Yeah.
But there was times when he wasn't there for you, when you really needed him, and just different things. But for me, I had to let go of a lot of expectations. I mean, this is who dad is, and he's going to be who he is, and I'm sure it's the same for him too. I am who I am, and we're imperfect human beings, and it takes a lot of grace, a lot of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Now, me and my brother were working together some, and it got to the point where we realized we just couldn't work together.
Yeah.
And now there might be times when I love my brother. I mean, it's a good chance he'll watch this and whatever, but it's just best we don't work together.
Yeah, he'll probably leave some nasty comments.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, I think that you touch on something that I think is important is, there are certain personalities and whatnot in recognizing that you don't click. And you talk about a machine, you have gears on your shirt there and your logo, and there's different types of gears. I remember learning about them when I was younger, and it's like, well, some of them aren't actually made to go together and function, and they can't function together. And it's like, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that gear. Mm-hmm. It's just made differently. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, some of us aren't made for, there's nothing wrong if you're not made for a family business, or if you're not made for business. Maybe, like businesses, and you talk about teams, there are certain people that it's like they want to be part of a team, but they don't want the entrepreneurial side of it. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. I mean, I'm someone who is not made for a family business. I couldn't work with my brother. I couldn't work with my father. I didn't try, but I knew that I wasn't made that way. And I love them. I love them both.
Right.
But the reality is I knew that I wasn't geared that way.
Right.
And I think that's something that's important is not letting, pressure from others around you make you feel like you have to do something. You have to know who you are. And that's a pretty big thing to learn, who you are, how you operate, what you can do, and how you can move forward. Don't be in a family business because it just is the thing that you think that you should do.
Right.
I mean, that's the importance also of having, you can have a team of people around you, whether you're in business or whether you're in life. You talk about your wife and how she helps you with your optimism. My wife is a huge part of my team, but I also have relationships that are a huge part of my team. In team me, in growing and learning and moving forward, and that's what we need to do. So what is a mistake that Wilmer has made in his life that he's willing to share with people?
I don't know if this is a mistake as much as a belief or whatever. I'm not sure. I mean, I really believe that when I had, this might come across a little wrong. When I hired the first 4 employees or whatever, I believed it was my responsibility to take full responsibility of to provide for their families.
Yeah.
And I just look at it a little different now. I do believe that is probably a noble cause, but I got it to the point, I believed it so heavily to the point where I believed that I was a complete failure if circumstances turned out so that I had to let someone go, or just like I said earlier. And I got to the point where I left that completely just consume me almost. Yeah. Where I realize now that everyone's got their own path to walk on. And what I feel happened is actually some of the guys left actually went to better opportunities than I was able to ever give them.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I learned out of that, or the mistake I felt I made, is I took myself too seriously, almost.
Yeah.
And realized that, I might be a piece to play, and I'm not the end all be all for the people that I'm working with, or for I'm not sure if that's answers the question.
Oh, I think it answers the question. I mean, it really ties into what I believe. My faith plays a huge part in what I believe, and I've had to learn a very similar thing in thinking that I was far more important than I actually was, and had to come to a place where, and I don't mean it like we don't take responsibility for our shit.
Right.
Or our stuff. Sorry, can we edit that out and we'll just say stuff instead? But we need to take responsibility for that. But the reality is, I'm not God. I'm not. I'm not this person that can make things happen. And I need to step back and realize, listen, I'm not in control of everything that's going on around me. I just need to do what's in front of me, keep pushing forward, and continually be learning from what it is that I'm doing, and then applying that and trying to make myself better. I've talked a couple of times about our core values, and one of our core values, I talked earlier about grit, but another one is excellence. And I really love that word because it's like, it's not perfection. I think we get really confused about excellence and perfection. And I actually think perfection is a really bad thing. It's very limiting, because one, I don't know that it's humanly possible. I have yet to see ever anything in existence that is 1,000% perfect. And when you get down to the microscopic level, I don't know that there's anything that is. And the other aspect of it is, excellence is just trying to be better than you were today, tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
like
or you know, that trying to be better today than you were yesterday. That's what excellence is. And when we go after that, that's how I think we avoid that mistake that you're talking about, where it's like, you know, how do I not get caught up in the thinking, well, I need to provide for you, or I need to do this. The reality is individuals are responsible for themselves. And if they're not, you'll figure that out, because the world and the universe that we live in is wired that way. And, you know, I was just having this conversation with my wife that we need to train our children so that they can take care of themselves and live themselves, because if we just take care of everything, and she was in agreement with me, we weren't having a fight, but if we just take care of things for them, then someday we're going to die and they're still going to be here, and we're not going to have taught them how to take responsibility for themselves. And so it's like we have that same issue when we tend to take ourselves too seriously, as you said, where it's like, oh, well, I can take care of this for you. And the reality is you're not them. Their perspective is different than yours. And maybe this is better for their life than this is, but you'll never be able to see that.
Right.
Yeah. So, well, Wilmer, I really appreciate you sitting down, stepping up to the line, having a real and honest conversation with me. This has been really good. I guess people who are listening, if they want to make a machine that doesn't exist, how do they find you?
Performanceautomation.com, performanceautomationinc.com. Yeah, check out the website. I am very bad with social media and everything else, so I can
help you with that.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, so maybe you'll see more. I do have Instagram, and I think there's a Facebook page, which is not active. But probably the best way would be the website. Check out some of the work that we've done and reach out that way.
Okay. Well, Wilmer, I really appreciate you inviting us into your shop. I love seeing your dogs run around, and I think I saw some of your kids or somebody's kids running around.
Yeah, probably ours.
Thanks for your time. We greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right.